We need like an A3 sheet and a pair of scissors. And what we're going to do today is look at six-fold geometry. We're going to look at hexagons, and we're going to look at an isometric grid. And there are lots of iterations that we can work with using this grid. So we'll see how far we get. We'll make the isometric grid, and then we'll play around with it. And this is, again, something that you can manipulate in your own time and construct a few different patterns. And I'll show you some photographs of various ideas to inspire you with. Okay, so first we're going to make the hexagon. All right, A3 sheet, you need to fold it in half along the longer length. So let's fold the sheet in half. You want to be as accurate as possible. Remember, as we did before, we're going to fold both directions, so reverse the fold. So fold it in half this way, I'm going to turn it over, fold it the opposite direction, just to make sure that we have a very fine articulation. Okay. Then we're going to fold it into quarters. So fold the edges up to the horizontal fold. The other way, this side too. Okay, and I'm going to just reverse those folds. Make it strong articulation. Loved some of the work from last week that I was seeing. Somebody made an incredible lamp out of that pattern that actually fitted a bowl behind it and a place plate. Really insane work. Okay. So hopefully you can see that in the light I've got here. What we're going to do now is I'm going to fold a corner over. I'm going to pivot on the central horizontal division. I'm going to pivot on that point and line up the point with the quarter fold. All right, I'm going to just fold that so you can see it. Maybe I'll just backwards and forwards so you can see a little bit. Right. Get some shadow in there. Okay, so I'm pivoting on that central piece, and the point is lining up the quarterly fold. All right, that has given us our 30 degrees. Now we're going to fold our page. We want to do the same on the opposite side. We're going to fold our page this way first. We're folding in half. We still have that fold there. Then we're going to flip the paper over. Do the same on the other side, but as well as lining up that point, we can also line up that edge. So the corner of the paper lining up with the quarterly fold, and then the edges are going to line up. So we have those 30 degree edges. It's going to give us two sides of our hexagon. Just a little bit so I can. Okay. So kind of like a little bit like an airplane. Right. Now it's these two corners that we're going to cut off. So we're going to cut these two corners off with scissors. Take time, cut really accurate. All right, so you can see the beginnings of the hexagon. Now we have 4 edges at the moment, 1, 2, 3, 4. We just need the latter part. So let's fold this page over. So we're folding this edge to this edge. Okay, like that. Folding these over. And lining up this point right here. So you can line up that point with the horizontal line. So I'll show you that again. So folding this edge that I've got my finger and thumb on over until it lines up with the side of the paper, and then lining up the point, the vertex, that hexagon with the horizontal line in the center of the page. So this point right here. All right, and then we can just cut that out. So we can cut along these lines. That will give us our hexagon. So now we have our hexagon. And you can see we have at the moment 1 radial line. We have to actually have 2. Okay, so we've got this one going between the vertexes. We need to put in this one too. So we'll fold our paper in half. You can see we have a cross there, but we need this horizontal fold. Put that in. So folding the hexagon in half. Fold the opposite direction too. Okay, so you should have your hexagon with the radial lines folded in, so you can already see we have an isometric grid. Okay, what I'd like to do now is you can also see that we have these 2 folds here. These are the 2 quarterly folds that we use to find our 30-degree angle. We need to put them in on the other sides, so just folding up in half to the center. So doing that side, doing the other side. This is going to change from an isometric grid of 6 triangles to 2. How many are we going to have? 3. We're going to have 18. Ultimately, what we're going to do is have a hexagon with a whole bunch of triangles inside, and then we can start to manipulate the paper into all kinds of different shapes. Uh, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 24. Great. All right. Hopefully you've got your grid now. I'll give you a couple of moments to catch up with that. Then we're going to put in the apothem lines. All right. So we've got the folds halfway this way from edge to edge. Now we're going to fold the vertices together. So we're going to go point to point. So folding the hexagon in half, 3 ways, point to point. And line up all the edges and points. That. So we have 6 vertices, so that's 3 folds. All right. Should be able to see the star there now. So that has created that beautiful hexagram. All right, so from there, we can actually do a little bit of 3-dimensional folding. So we can take these little corners, and at the same time, I'm going to fold my these 2, this like outer rhomb of 2 equilateral triangles. I'm going to fold that in and push the petal of the hexagram down. So I'm sort of pushing these 2 lines down with my thumb and forefinger. So you're pushing down and then kind of pushing them together at the same time. And just spin it around. So the petal of the hexagram goes down. So does this apothem line. Just repeating that process all the way around until we end up with a nice little satisfying star shape. Super. So this is just a very simple iteration of the pattern. Let's flatten that out. You can see the architectural properties of this. You know how strong it is. Just doing those, as soon as you put in those triangles, it's got inherent strength. All right, you can flick it over if you want. So like if you've got it this way, you can just invert it. You see that? So if you put it upside down, push it down in the center, it will invert into a more like a dome shape. So just a simple set of a simple isometric grid and give you lots of fun. But let's take it a little bit further. So now, remember from the session where we looked at the fourfold, I talked about the apothem and the radial lines. So the radial lines go from the vertices, so from point to point, and the apothem lines go from the edges. So we're going to line up our vertices. So you need to have it in the same orientation that I have. So having an edge at the bottom. And then we're going to fold up our page and line up points hexagon with the apothem line. So line up those vertex with that. All right, because ultimately we're going to make a grid, an isometric grid. We're going to break up the halfway section into thirds rather than into quarters. It's a bit more interesting, especially since we're working with 6-fold. So you're folding up, lining up the center, always lining up the center to make sure it's square, and then lining the vertices up with the apothem lines. Not to be confused with these radial lines too. It's the apothem lines. All right, if you crack that, then you're going to spin around and just repeat that process for each side. So you're going to open it up again. And can you see on my drawing, what I'm ultimately going to do is break this up into thirds. So I've got 1/3 there, and then the next third will go about here in a moment. But that's my goal. All right, so if you've got that process, you put it up there, rotate it round, and do the next side. And you want to do this 6 times. And you'll notice that obviously it's an isometric grid, so things should start to line up. You know, your previous fold will line up here. You can see that's the previous fold. And you'll have a little intersection. Okay, so just repeat this all the way around, lining up with the center and apothem lines. Oops. There. And as Hannah said, we're actually making another hexagon inside this hexagon, like a dimension hexagon. See, isn't that beautiful? So we already have a very nice star which we can weave. I might just give you a little demo of what that looks like. We have this really nice star. Yeah, I don't necessarily have to draw this because it's just a bit of an extra. I'm going to show you how these patterns emerge. You see the nice woven hexagon. This is just one of the many wonderful things you can do with this set of this isometric grid. I'm sure you could do a much better job than that, coloring it in. But we're going to take this a bit further. So if you like, you can take a little screenshot of that, something you can do at a later stage. There are so many things you can pick out of this isometric grid. I'm going to flip it over and we're going to put more triangles in. Okay, so next one, we are going to fold. We fold up to this one. Okay, great. So the fold we've just made, so this line here, with the pencil on it, the fold we've just made, we're going to fold our edge of our hexagon up to that one. So the previous fold, we fold our edge up to that. There's another fold. Okay, so this is the previous fold here. Fold up. All your triangles should be joining. You should have these nice intersections here in the fold. You can start to see the triangles appearing. The more we do, the more we're going to get a whole grid, a whole big isometric grid. Wow. Reverse those folds. Okay, it's getting there. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do those. And then we're just going to do the small edge, which is basically just like that. I'll just get that ready. When you're ready now, but the next bit is just going to be folding up this small edge, like I'm showing on the screen. So literally just folding up to the fold we just made. Doing that final line at the edge of triangles. That's the folds as well. So you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we've got that central hexagon in the middle. So we're going to have to get a couple of divisions in there too. So you have just one more fold actually. I'm going to wait for you just to make sure you're with me before I give you this last set of folds. You might be able to figure it out yourself. All we need to do is really line up our edge to the previous fold. And basically, you see I've got my halfway point inside that central hexagon. We're going to fold up with 2 down from the opposite side. You see I've got 1, 2. So I'm folding my edge up all the way over and counting 2 down from the opposite side. Okay, I'll just do that there so you can see it. All right, that's the final fold, and you just repeat that 6 times. Okay, and then you have your massive grid. Okay, so from here, you can take this in lots of directions, following the same method I showed you with the smaller iteration of triangles. So just with we just had this small grouping of triangles. We create that nice three-dimensional effect. You can do the same with this, but it will take you a while. So it will take, you just start in the corner. I usually start on the side, but I like to have the central star sussed as well. But this is really something that you're going to have to play with. Get some music on and just start messing with the mountains and valleys and the paper folding. And I'm going to show you some examples, but I just want to get this one a little bit started for you, because I don't really want to show you what to do with this. I'd like you just to really get the bug for the improvised paper folding techniques. So there are like so many versions that you can make from this isometric grid. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples. And it's really something that does take a bit of time. And my recommendation would be like, just go with some simple folds to start with, and just repeat the same fold 6 times and see what you start to get. See what comes out. There's a real inherent strength in the triangles, so the piece will hold together. We'll just start from the outside in, the inside out. I'm really starting from the star in the center. I'm getting that folded. And I'm just going to see what happens. So, already got my center, and now I can start to manipulate the edges. Do something simple like that, just pick out those triangles. So many things you could do. I've done this one before, so I might just try this. That's not simple for now. See, I'm just working around, repeating the same process with all the edges. I'm already starting to get something really funky. And this is just a case of sticking with it and messing around. And I'll show you some fun examples. These are some pieces I did earlier in the year. So you can see here, I think there are a couple of 4 folds in there too, but mostly this is using the same grid that you have. Okay, so can you see all the different examples? And these are all students that are similar age to you. They're all about sort of 16, 17-year-olds. And I showed them how to make the grid and then just let them go for it. There are some beautiful examples out there. Let me show you something else. So if you have even more triangles, you can end up with patterns like this. So it's an isometric grid, but way more triangles. So probably to make this, you'd need to put 3 triangles, 3 radial lines inside your triangles. So you have to have another set of 3 triangles inside each triangle, basically. And then you start to have to collapse it. And you also have to work with a much smaller. Oh, here's a nice example. Let me show you another one. I'm going to share something else with you. Another nice little inspirational picture. This is very beautiful too, right? Look at that star. Have like a little hexagram in the center, and then a wider one of the petals around the hexagram. So here's it's just a few inspirational ideas for you. It's going to take it'll take you a while. It's just now over to you to turn this isometric grid into something. I'd love to see if you'd like to send any pictures to Creative Dimension or myself, or you'd like to tag them on Instagram or myself. It's always nice to see the end result, but it will take a little bit of time to mess around and see what comes out. You might end up with some alien spaceship style folds or crazy flowers. Next week's the final week or not, but we're going to work with sort of like, they call it a water bomb, but it's a strange combination of crosses and squares. It's a very intricate fold. So tune in for that.